Welcome back to another Q&A episode of the Life You Love podcast. We do these monthly Q&As at the end of every single month. We pull all of your questions from Spotify from our regular episodes and we pull them into these monthly Q&As. So this is your reminder to leave all of your questions in Spotify whenever you're listening to the podcast. But with that, we have a couple of really good questions this time. Sometimes the questions you guys leave are a little bit, we're like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. But this time I feel like you guys left really good ones. So I'm excited for today's episode. But
We
I'll
okay,
get in.
wait, before you say the question, the reason we say like, "Oh, we don't answer them," we want juicy. We're like, "Give us some
No,
juicy
yeah,
questions,
yeah.
guys." We're like, "You can ask anything. Like, we will give you the juice." So don't play light. Like, you can ask us the
Yes.
juicy things. That's what
Yeah,
we
the
mean. We
questions
love
will be
all of your
like
questions, but
but it'll be like how to budget or something. We're like, "No,
we're
we
like,
don't
"Give
want
us
to
like
talk about."
we'll share some tea. Don't be afraid to ask." That's what we mean. We're like, "Go
Yes.
juicy." So, we love
Okay,
all the
yeah.
questions,
That
but
was a good clarification. Ask whatever you want. We might not answer it if we don't like it. No,
we
whatever.
might pull the juicy ones.
Okay, this first question, this one says, I have a question for Erin. How did you balance your corporate job with growing your side hustle while still prioritizing workouts, rest, and relationships? What did your schedule and life look like? Was there a mindset shift that helped you stay consistent? I'm going to be so totally honest. I don't feel like I was necessarily a super balanced person in that phase of my life. And that phase was right after college graduation. So it was right when I started my first corporate job. I was working 9 to 5, but I was remote. So that gave me a little bit of flexibility since I wasn't driving into the office every day. But it was the same time that I started posting on TikTok. And I started with that, since I was posting on social media, I started taking freelance roles in like content creation, social media management, UGC. So I feel like work really sped up quickly in that phase of life. And all of a sudden, I went from just working my corporate job to having all of these side hustles. And I think the phases of my life that are kind of like the domains that I let slide in that time period really were my relationships. I was living with an ex boyfriend and honestly, like, didn't really see my friends. If I'm being transparent, like, I kind of lost a number of friendships during that phase, which, like, I'm not proud of. And I'm definitely not like, if I could go back and do it differently, I probably would have made more of an effort to maintain those friendships. But looking back, like, that period of imbalance definitely is why I am where I am today. Like I don't think I would be where I am if I didn't kind of go heads down on content and business and freelancing for a good 2 years on top of my corporate job. So it really did look a lot of like, okay, on my lunch breaks and then after work, like my ex at the time, he would work long hours so he wouldn't get back until like 6 or 7. So I would really just be on my computer until then and I would be filming content and posting. And then on the weekends, he was a big golfer and I obviously don't golf. So like every single Saturday, I would have the house completely to myself and I would be working and like filming and doing all of my freelance work and stuff. So that is kind of the reality of it, unfortunately. And we talk about that a lot on the podcast is like if you want to get to a point where if you want those exceptional results and if you want to be in a position that's like different from the quote unquote norm, you probably will have to go through a period of imbalance and one of your domain areas probably will have to take a back burner.
Yeah, I think that's just the realistic. There's only so much time in the day. And if you are working a corporate job and then you have to invest time into building up a side hustle, like there is just only so much time in the day and you won't be able to do every single thing. I think when I was building, I think my social life also kind of took a little bit of a back burner. And I still made an effort to see my friends like once a week or once every other week, but that was really it. Like I was not traveling and going here, there, and everywhere. And I was doing workouts at home because I wasn't even like driving to the gym. Like I was just like, I'm going to do a quick little workout at home. Or yeah, I think my sleep definitely took a hit for a little bit too, which I do not condone. That was like a very bad idea for me. And that was the first thing that when like I started to get back on track, I was like, yeah, I need to sleep. But I think that's just like the reality of, I think I found multitasking really helped me. So like if I was like going to go on a walk, I would like call a friend or things like that. And that helped to try to balance everything. But I think, yeah, the reality is just there's going to be a strategic period of imbalance for a while.
Definitely. This next question, we talk a lot about content creation on here. So I feel like that is, I forget what episode this question came from, but this question says, do you have a maximum for how many branded slash ad posts you post on your own accounts per week support or per month? Does that partially depend on how often you're posting your own content? I'm a very small niche creator and not wanting to burn out my audience on ads. Thank you so much for all of the great info you guys share. Loving the pod.
So I think like when it starts to get to be like more than one a week, I'm kind of like that's usually I feel like my maximum. If you've been on my page in the last month, oh my Lanta, I obviously this is such like a first world problem and like a like, whatever, but I accepted campaigns that were supposed to go up like they were all very spaced out. And one thing like just like one of them gets delayed, one of them their platform stops working and now like we've been going back and forth trying to fix it for the last like month and a half. Then this other brand is like, "We actually need all 3 of the videos to go up before this date." And I was like, "Oh, that okay, that's a week and a half span that you want 3 sponsored videos. And then I already have 2 other sponsored videos like slotted for these other 2 dates. It was to the point where there was a sponsored video every other day. And I was like, somewhat, no, one of y'all has to move. I was like, I actually like can't, like this is just too much. So it's really difficult because you can like, I feel like I aim for no more than 1 per week. And even then, sometimes I feel like that's too much. But sometimes like deadlines get moved and things get delayed. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap. I think that to a degree, it depends on how much you are posting organically in between because there are creators who, and sometimes this happens to me too, but there are creators who don't post as much organically. Like let's say they post organically 3 times a week. But then if they like, there are creators I know who on TikTok, like they're pretty much only posting sponsored videos. They're hardly ever posting an organic video in between. It's just like 3 sponsored videos a week or 1 a week or whatever, and maybe a one-off organic. But I think that to this person's point in the question, it can fatigue your audience when it is feeling like everything is sponsored because then it's kind of like, obviously as a creator, you shouldn't accept a partnership with something that you don't support. But then when it's like, it's only sponsored content, it's like, I want to hear your opinion about something that you were not paid to talk about, you know? And again, that opinion about that paid product should be your actual opinion and something you stand behind. But I think it can fatigue people because then they're kind of like, what the heck? But unfortunately, sometimes things happen and you're like me, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I feel awful because it feels like every other video is a sponsored video of products I love. But I'm like, dang, I want to talk about my outfit in between, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, as a creator, you have very little control over when a campaign goes live. And that is like
Mhm.
the unfortunate truth. I actually just had to decline a campaign that I already filmed, edited, and submitted both videos because. So basically, this brand came in and it was a brand that like I stood behind. It was obviously, you guys know, my townhouse was new construction and it was a new construction builder in my area. And they came in at the beginning of February. They came in for a paid campaign and they wanted to do a 2 video campaign. And I was like, that's amazing. That fits so organically into my content.
Mhm.
I can talk about the new construction process. I can talk about like things to look out for in the new construction process. I was like, this fits so organically. So we accepted the campaign. This brand like kicked their feet for months about we were going back and forth on the script and I would submit a script and then I wouldn't hear back from them for a month. And then they would come back with a whole new script that they wanted me to do. And then I would obviously rewrite it in my own words because I'm not going to take their script. And then I wouldn't hear from them for a month. So all of a sudden, I'm moving out of my new construction townhouse. And I told them, I sent them a month in advance. I said, hey, I know you haven't approved my drafts yet. Cause at that point, we already approved the scripts and got the drafts submitted. And I was like, but both of these content pieces need to be live by May 21st, because that's the moving date that I'm going to be talking about the fact that I'm
Mhm.
moving out of my new construction townhouse. And it's not that I don't stand by new construction. It's not that I am now against new construction. So I still stand by the brand, but it's the fact that that content no longer feels even remotely organic because
Mhm.
the way that the script and the draft came together, it was me talking about I live in a new construction townhouse. Okay,
Mhm.
now I can't post that because all of my content is about moving. So the brand a month before my moving date was like, oh yeah, those dates should be fine. Then they kicked their feet. They're delayed on the draft revisions. And all of a sudden, it was the week of May 21st and they didn't have the draft revisions. And I told my manager, I was like, I know that I am now going to lose out on all of this money. And we put in a lot of work. I literally filmed, edited, and submitted the videos, but I was like, I can't post these anymore. And we had to decline the partnership, which is like the unfortunate truth. But I think that that just goes to show like when you accept something in February, you think it's going to go live in February or March. It could go live in July or August. So you
Yeah.
literally have, like, when I look at all of the campaigns that I've accepted in 2026, I don't think there's a month where I've accepted more than like four, because I always track like brand deals, what month they came in and like what month they go live. So I can kind of track like payments and stuff. I don't think there's a month where I've accepted more than like four or five deals. But you could have an entire month where you don't post any brand deals because the brands are delaying and they kick their feet,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden you have a month where you're posting 8 or 9 of them and you're like, "Shoot."
Yep.
But again, I totally agree with the, as long as you're holding yourself to a standard of how often you post your own organic content, like, even if I have a week where I have 3 brand deals going live, I still hold myself to the standard of posting, like, 5 or 6 organic posts a week because that's what I do normally. So even if that means that on a day that an ad goes live, an organic post also goes live and I post twice a day. So I think it just, and your audience understands, I think,
Yeah.
unless take advantage of it and it gets too crazy.
Yeah. 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 Or you start backing like random like products where it's like, girl, you know what I mean? Like there are certain things that it's like, you definitely don't actually
Use
do
that.
that. Yeah. Like, let's be serious. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think that there's that element too that is important. So
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. This question says, I love this episode. Brought me back to the OG Girls Talk Money days. This had to have been on our financial freedom episode, which that was a really good one. If you haven't
yeah.
listened to that, go back and listen to it. It says, I have a question. Do you invest on your own or recommend a financial advisor?
So I invest on my own. Here's like what I'll say. So a lot of like financial creators and like people like us who are, financial freedom minded, if you will, are so like against an advisor. And the reason is because a lot of people go into working with an advisor not understanding the different types of advisors and what the purpose of an advisor is, or what they're even trying to get out of that situation. So a lot of times people go into it saying, I want a financial advisor to tell me what to invest in. Then what happens is they go and they work with that financial advisor. They tell them, they say, okay, here's like what I think you should invest in. So then they basically manage your investments for you. And when they do that, they take a percentage of your investments. And that over time, as your investments grow in the market, that percentage, even if it's just 1% of your investments, 1% of a few $1,000,000 by the time you retire is a significant amount of money. And so that's what people always caution people about. What I will say is, I invest on my own. However, years ago, I had a client who was a financial advisory platform, and it was like a flat fee situation. And so I had someone from that platform look at my investments to see like what my investment strategy was. And she gave me she was like, yeah, I wouldn't change anything. She's like, how you have it set up is like, and knowing your goals is exactly how I would set it up. When you work with a flat fee advisor, it's exactly as it sounds. You pay them a flat fee to advise you on the questions that you have around your finances. So it could be like what to invest in. And I think sometimes people are very black and white and they're like, never ever talk to an advisor. It's like, if you have concerns about whether or not your investment strategy is good or is wise or aligns with your goals as, for whatever your finances are, go hire a flat fee financial advisor. Just make sure that it is a flat fee person and that you're not giving them a portion of your investments. We mention all the time a platform called Nectarine. Our friend who is also a content creator, Jeremy Schneider, he owns that platform and he's an amazing human being and it's an amazing platform. It's all flat fee financial advisors. But to answer the question, I personally, I don't work with an advisor on an ongoing basis. No one has a portion of my investments. It's all mine. But here and there throughout my life, I will likely have a financial advisor take a peek at it as I go through different chapters or as my financial goals change over time.
Yeah, I agree. The question is a bit tricky because it's not like we are pro financial advisor or against financial advisor. It really is just kind of like a proceed with caution type of thing, because outside of the type of financial advisor that's going to take a percentage of your portfolio to invest your money for you, which to be transparent, a lot of those types of financial advisors won't even work with you until you have a minimum amount invested, like 500K invested or something. Like they need to have a portfolio to take a percentage of. So if you have nothing invested or $10,000 invested, they're not making any money off of doing that. It's not going to make sense for them. So it's like that's not even tangible for the average person. And then it ends up being so expensive once you do have that amount of money invested. But then the other type of financial advisor is one that doesn't charge you anything, doesn't take a percentage of your portfolio, but they charge you commission on the products that they sell. And this is like a very interesting industry and one to definitely be wary of. I had an internship like briefly in college at Northwestern Mutual. And basically, what they would do is like hire these interns. The interns would get licensed literally just in life insurance. And then they would be called financial advisors. And their job would be to cold call every single person they've ever met in their entire life and be like, hey, do you need a financial advisor? But the only thing that they're licensed to do at that point is to sell people life insurance. So it's like if your financial advisor is not charging you anything, they are making money off of you in a different way. And they're probably selling you products that, like, what does a 20-year-old need those types of life insurance policies for? Like, I don't know. So it is just kind of one of those things. They kind of relate it to like the health industry where sure you could go see a doctor, but is it in your better care to understand your health yourself? Yes, always yes. So it's like speak to a professional when it makes sense, but you also need to do the legwork to understand your own financial perspective and your investments on your own as well. So yeah, I totally agree with everything that you said on the flat fee advisor. Again, the platform that you talked about is called Nectarine. I think the website is called hellonectarine.com, but that's like such a good way to go speak to an advisor for an hour and just get some questions out. And you can always book a follow-up appointment if you need to. But yeah, let us know if you have any more questions on that in Spotify or like investing resources that we use or how we learned or anything like that. Because it's not as hard as it sounds if you've never done it. Okay, the next one says, I'm a freelancer. I've never had an agent and I'm thinking of a professional pivot. Did you use a career coach? What was the process like? Biggest takeaway? Sort of unrelated. I'd love to know more about having a talent manager. Did they approach you once you reached certain audience metrics? Or did you approach them to manage brand deals? And lastly, I'd love to hear more about streams of passive income. Has anything new popped up since you last spoke about it?
Okay. A
So,
lot
three
here.
questions.
So, yes. So, the first part about freelancing. So, I never had an agent. I managed everything myself. I was always like a team of one. And then I had an assistant, but the assistant really helped me with like more admin tasks on the content creation side of things. They never helped me with client work. Like, I never was outsourcing, like, oh, make this video for me or write this post or whatever. And I honestly I've never really heard of a freelancer having an agent, or like I don't know anyone who does. I think that it really is like you're a consultant essentially. So you need to build the relationships with clients to then get them as clients. When it comes to what was the second part of the question? Like right after that?
The second part was having a talent manager. Did they approach you or did you approach them to manage brand deals?
Yes. So I had one talent manager and then I left them at the beginning of May and started with a new talent management company. But I've spoken with a bunch of talent management agencies over the years. And this is for like brand deals on the social media side. They've all come to me. I've never reached out to any of them. And I think that makes the most sense. I think that as a content creator, it doesn't really make sense to be, how do I say this like very gently? If a talent manager like wants to work with you, they will reach out to you. And I think that if you're not getting inbounds from talent managers, I think that your page is probably just not at a point where talent managers, like where it makes sense to have a talent manager. And that's my hot take. I think that, a talent manager is going to take typically 20% off the top of all of your brand deals in exchange for negotiating them, managing your inbox, managing that whole like kind of pipeline, sending the invoices, following up, et cetera, et cetera. And you have to be making enough from brand deals on your own for it to make sense for them to come in to say, okay, it makes sense for us to invest this time into this person to take a percentage off the top. Now, I will say when I started working with my first talent management agency back in November of 2024, I was billing around $15,000 per quarter on brand deals. So I was really not making that much. That's $1,000 a month roughly that my talent management agency would be making off of my brand deal income. However, they knew that I was struggling to respond to everybody because I was like freelancing full time at the time as well. So I'm behind on emails. I'm definitely not negotiating as high as I could. And I'm not pitching myself to anybody because I don't even have, like, I don't have capacity to do that. So we were able to increase that. And when they took that off my plate, I was able to then grow my page even more to where we were billing way, 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 way more per quarter than $15,000. So I think that there's like that portion of it. So I think like wait until talent managers come to you, but also don't just like sign with the first one that comes to you. I talked to about 6 or 7, I think, before I signed with my first talent management agency. And I'm so glad I did because the ones that I said no to, like I would never have wanted to like sign a year-long contract with them. And even when I decided to leave my first management agency and go to my second one, there were ones that had reached out to me that I was like, I know I'm looking for something different, but like it's not going to be this one. Like one reached out to me that takes 33% off the top of everything. And I was like, abso-freaking-lutely not. Like there's no, I don't know. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what service you're providing. Taking 30% of my brand deals, it's not worth it. So just like things like that, you have to think about. But typically, yeah, they come to us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I agree with everything that you just said. I think the biggest thing to reiterate is that like people think that they need a talent manager to get brand deals. Like I've
Yeah.
definitely heard that before where people will say like I have 50,000 followers, but I don't do any brand deals. Like I think I need a talent manager. And I'm like, okay, no, not necessarily. I think you need to maybe look at your content and say like what about my content is not attractive to brands? Is it the type of content that I'm creating? Is it the fact that all of my videos are just like trending audio with text on screen? Is it, do I do just like those little like Canva graphics and I'm not really talking to the camera or vlogging? Like, do I not talk about the industries that brands are promoting so that brands can't see their products in my videos? I think that how many inbounds you're getting is like a really good indicator of when you're ready to sign with talent management. Like you just said, like if you are at a point where you're getting inbounds from 4 to 5 quality brands a month, not like random Amazon brands that like are going to pay you $100 for a video. Like that's not what we mean, but like 4 to 5 brands that like you would actually work with per month, maybe even a little bit less, maybe 3 inbounds a month from a quality brand that you would potentially work with. Or when you are doing enough brand deals on your own that you're like, okay, this is getting to be a lot and I can't manage the admin of it. I think that's where I was. It was in 2023 when I signed with my talent manager, the first one, because I've been with 3 now over the last 4 years. And all I had generally good experiences at all of them. I honestly don't have any like super negative experiences, but it was probably doing like maybe 5K a month in brand deals, like up to, like not consistently, but like up to 5K a month in brand deals when I signed with them. And yeah, just like you said, like we were definitely able to scale that from there. And they were able to negotiate much higher rates, but also my page was growing so much during that
Mhm.
time. Um, so talent managers can be good, but you really do have to put in the work on your own to get your page to a point where brands are reaching out consistently. And I also think that it's a big myth that once you get a talent manager, they're going to get you all of these brand, like they're going to get you so many more brand deals. I have been with 3 talent management companies now. I stand by the fact that it's worth it. That 20% that I pay is worth it 10 times over. However, over 90% of the deals that I do to this day are inbound. Like, yes,
Mhm.
they'll get me a couple deals here and there if like someone else on their roster does a deal and then the brand is like, "Oh, do you have anyone else that we can work with?" And we get like kind of a roster referral, but most of the deals that I do are the brands inbounding, and the biggest benefit is that they're handling the admin, they're signing the contract because we have a whole legal team so that I don't have to worry about signing something that I shouldn't. And they're negotiating significantly higher rates than I would ask for. So, yeah, let us know if you have any other questions about the brand management stuff if you are getting into content creation. But the last part of that question says, I'd love to hear more about streams of passive income. Has anything new popped up since you last spoke about it? Definitely not anything new. I don't think either of us have really like changed our like income streams. And also nothing that has to do with content creation is passive. Nothing that has to do with freelancing is even remotely passive. It's definitely scalable because as you keep creating content and like now I have 1,000 Instagram posts on my page. Like I just crossed the 1,000 post mark. So it's like my old videos can still be pushed and brands can still find me from old pieces of content that I've done. So it's scalable in that way, but nothing is ever passive. So I think that that's just like a good thing to keep in mind that regardless of what you're doing, you're going to have to put in some work. It's just that entrepreneurial things tend to be more scalable than a traditional job.
Yeah, I think you won't necessarily have to put in, like, you don't have to be there at the transaction being like, here, give me the money for this. Like, so it can happen like when you're sleeping that someone makes a purchase, but you still had to do something to push them in the direction of that purchase. Like, it's funny because I stopped obviously talking about freelancing now that I closed down that part of the business. And then 1 month, like, three people bought my freelancing course when I literally didn't even talk about it at all. And I was like, my goodness, but it's because I still had the funnel. Like, I still have the webinar that's like up and running, like, and people can go and watch it. So I was like, okay, I'm like, and people can still join the course and get my support in the community. And I still like mentor the people there who've paid for the program. So that's been, I guess, like not necessarily like a new income stream because it's always been there, but something that is still happening passively because my old videos, people still search and they find them and whatever. I've been trying to, we were talking about this, trying to get our affiliate income up with my new management team. They were just like, I said to my manager, I was like, I love coffee and I'm such a coffee snob and I like hardly get coffee out anymore because I just love my own coffee. And she said, she's like, Grace, I would never know that you like coffee because you never post about it. I was like, yes, I do. And then I like looked at my like archive of my stories. I had not posted about coffee like at all. And I'm like, what the heck? So if you've noticed, I've started trying to post more about my life and the things that I'm doing and just like products I'm using because people would never know. And just trying to link them and make it accessible for people to like see, oh, what is the product that she's using? Because I'm not someone who just like buys things I don't like and I keep things I don't like. I actually run like a pretty tight ship of like, no, I don't like that. I'm returning it kind of thing. But you would never know because I don't talk about the products I like that on my story and in my content. So I've been trying to kind of get more into that because yeah, I am pretty like strict on the things that I buy, but
Yeah.
you would never know.
I definitely am a big proponent of affiliate income. I think that it's a really good place to start when you are posting content and you're maybe not attracting brand deals yet. I think like talking about the products that you love and linking to them is such a good way to like start getting into making money on social media. We did an episode in the spring about TikTok Shop and that was such a good episode. I even listened to it back because we brought on a few guests and I even listened to it back and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, they did drop so many gems in that." And that can be applied no matter whether you're going to link to things via TikTok shop or link to things via an Amazon storefront or a Shop My. The logistics are just going to be slightly different, but all of the principles still apply. So, yeah, definitely consider that. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to wait until I get this like $3,000 brand deal. Like, no, you can start taking control of your income. I tell my one friend this all the time. She won't care that I'm like exposing her, but she is so fashionable. She does such a good job of like putting cute outfits together in an affordable way and like accessorizing with them. So she's so fashionable. And then also her apartment literally looks like it's from Pinterest. Like she decorated it so cute and is so good at like organizing and keeping her space clean. And I was like, you need to post more consistently about those two things and like link to the things that you bought on Amazon for your home and like make content that's giving people value around like here's how I organize my space and keep it clean consistently as someone who works 10 hours a day and like link to all of the outfits that you're wearing with all of the accessories. Like that is value add for people who are like me and like want to try to organize their space better or want to try to accessorize better. That's value add content and like you can make a substantial money linking to the things that you actually use and actually love. So I think that's a good like place to start as well. But this last kind of question here goes like hand in hand with that because we're talking about content. It said, the podcast completely changed my life and helped me start monetizing my socials. UGC has been the most profitable part of my creator income so far, but so many opportunities feel pyramid, schemy, exploitative, or scammy. How would you recommend newer creators navigate that while still growing?
Well, I think there are a lot of very scammy, exploitative, kind of like strange things happening in the UGC space. I think, I mean, for one, I think like use your discernment and never compromise on like Because essentially, if you're gonna be filming a piece of UGC, right, for a brand, your face is ultimately gonna be tied to that, and there are creators who have become kind of like household names in the UGC space because brands will be like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, there's the, girl named Tran who does UGC content," and I feel like Tran has become so well known in the UGC space, so if she attaches her name to a brand, it's like that's part of her reputation now because people know her as a really good UGC creator and she's someone who creates really high performing ads. So I think don't, use your discernment if it does feel scammy and whatever, definitely don't participate in it. But I think paying attention to where you're sourcing brand deals. We just had a UGC creator come on the podcast. Her name's Olivia and she talks with us on her page too. Some of the best places to find UGC deals are on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And both of those require you posting content that attracts brands in, similar to how we were just talking about for brand deals if you're trying to become a content creator. Because ultimately, like the scammy kind of brands just want to, I mean, you're still going to get outreach regardless from brands that are scammy and you just have to say no. But a lot of the brands that are looking for really high quality content want to see examples of that content and they want to have like a professional kind of like interaction with you. So they're probably going to look for you on Instagram or on LinkedIn because those are two professional platforms where they can see your work and engage with you in a professional manner. I think also if you're on platforms that are going to like pay you like $20 per video, it's okay to get your start on those kinds of things. And I think you have to be realistic too if like your content is, maybe like you're working on your editing, you're working on your lighting, etc. Be realistic about where you can start. But I think that some of those platforms, when there are really, really, really low rates, may lend themselves more to scam. So my advice is to start to build up your platform on places like Instagram and LinkedIn. Not that you need to have a million followers, but post sample pieces of your work or things like that on those platforms and give brands a place to kind of connect with you, but also interact with the brands that you want to work with. Like be in their comment sections, like their stories, like engage with things that they're doing so that they see you and they know that you're real and they're real and you're like interacting with them. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely go back and listen to the episode with Olivia. We posted it like a couple weeks ago, so it's not too far back because she gave a lot of really good tips on where to start and how to find deals. But I will also just reiterate the point of be realistic. You're not going to decide you want to become a UGC creator and then in a couple weeks end up working with like Dyson or like a huge well-known brand. Like Dyson can work with anybody. So it's like be realistic on the types of brands that you are going to attract and they probably are going to be lower paid. You might find them on the platforms where they're offering $20 a video, but it's like you just said, does your quality match $20 a video? Because there's so many UGC creators out there. And I think that if you're listening to that saying like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make a video for $20. It's like, think about it as the fact that you're getting better at what you're doing. Like that's going to be like practice for you. And you're going to get so much practice out of those lower paid videos where you're like, I've never even freaking heard of this brand. And like, as long as it's not actually a scammy brand, as long as it's a legit brand, like that, I think that that's fine. So yeah, I think just like be realistic on where your skill set is. And I definitely, when I was getting into UGC, I was making videos for like $20 a video, but I look
Mhm.
back at those and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they even paid me $20.
I know.
I should have paid them $20 for how bad this
Yeah,
video is.
yeah.
So yeah, just you get better and you learn and yeah, just treat it as kind of like okay, this is practice and eventually I will get to the point where I'm a lot better at this. But with that, if you have any more questions on UGC or social media income streams, let us know in the comments. I feel like we haven't done like a dedicated episode on that in a while. So we can definitely do an updated one. But with that, thanks for tuning into the podcast and until next week.